welcome people that are into baseball to the first Let's Talk MLB The Show podcast. Now, I know I'm not the first podcast. I'll be covering topics that the other podcast will, but I'm going to give a specific take on it because I very much enjoy playing as a franchise, building a team, but keeping the team somewhat realistic, not like editing it to where I get like Vladdy, I get Tatis, I get like a ton of people on one team. Like, even though realistically I would need to make the Royals good, I still need something. So, but I want to give my take on it because I am not by any means a skilled player. I have played 3 ranked games this year. 3 ranked games. 2 of them I quit. Well, no, the very first one was on opening night when the problems of server disconnections and everything else was rampant, which hasn't fixed, but still. And then just in general, just haven't played. I played probably one of the shittiest modes to come out of the game this year, events, and that was pretty much all I did. I'm a big battle royale guy, to where you only have a certain amount of diamonds on a team, you only have whatever, and this is going to be a preview for the next episode. I'm hoping that's what the online mini seasons are. Now, they're probably just going to be a God Squad tournament style for the weekend, so that might be getting rid of events, which I think a lot of people would prefer, but it also gets us using different cards in the game with events, so who really knows? But I mean they're just not smart with events. I don't know what's going on, I don't know what's happening, but either way, this is what I want to look at, is how 2021 did, how MLB The Show 21 will hold up. I want to go over the positives, I want to go over the obvious negatives, and I want to talk about a view from someone who's now played it since 18, has almost too big of a love for baseball, and just kind of going over what a casual person will see, because I'm nowhere close to heights here. Now, I think I did pretty good. I work a ton, but I think I did pretty good. I got Griffey almost when he came out. I've kept up on basically every card in the game now. As you see, I didn't get a single clock, and I didn't get any of these because, once again, don't play ranked. I'm not good enough to go 12-0. I know that. And then this universal icon, that's just the clock. I don't have time to play every day. Set that out on a limb. A lot of people that do, good for you. I do not. So it just kind of goes whatever. Like, there is a lot of different things that have come along this year that are new, that I didn't really explore. Like, I never wanted to really create a cap. If you did, and you did everything in the league, good for you. You took advantage of a game-breaking system that's only going to be back next year. So that's probably negative. But I'm hoping, and I have some ideas for next episode for what I want to see out of 22. But we're not talking about 22. We are talking about 21 and its successes and its failures. Now, this year, we got rid of the XP path, and we got this program path. And I will tell you that this was probably the easiest thing in the world for everybody, and I'm not dissing it. I'm not sitting here saying this was a horrible idea. I'm not sitting here saying that I can't believe like they went this route's stupid. No, this is a route that they went that I agree was probably the best route they could have went with XP, because XP really didn't matter. If you were great at the game but you barely played, your XP was going to be low anyway. That reward path is almost unfathomable, and there was just so much XP that you'd had to grind. This one made it so much more manageable, and with that, with the missions, with the conquest that they kept putting out, with everything else, all the bells and whistles, the conquest, the collections that you would have, the exchanges, the everything that they had put out. I mean, it's just, it shows that they knew, oddly enough, that people wouldn't be able to play this every day. People wouldn't be able to sit here and grind out, what was it, 150 XP? 150,000 XP for the bosses, I think this is where it would typically land. Or no, it was, I think it was 350. Yeah, it was around 350 is the boss point. That was a lot of XP for people. But when you had Conquest that took up a quarter of it, when you had the player programs that took up a quarter of it, when you had all this stuff to take advantage of it, I mean, you only had to play for maybe 2 days, like 2 full days, like just one solid weekend of grinding, whatever. And as long as you completed the rest of these daily tasks within the month, you were able to get the boss no problem. And I mean, there was a couple months where I played as much as I could, and I had gotten to the max tier of like the 600,000. So I think with the XP standpoint, now they might need to adjust it. Not gonna lie, they might need to adjust it. They might need to make it easier. They might need to make it a little bit harder. I don't really know, because they didn't release a mode this year that everybody loves, which was the Extreme program. They didn't release it, and I don't know why. I don't know if it went with this innings format that they just didn't want to release. They didn't do it with really anything else. So I don't know why they didn't, which is kind of a big glaring issue. But I don't know. I don't know why they did it. I mean, it's kind of concerning, but that's fine, you know? So, with that, I mean, content, however, was fine. I typically will play this game the day it comes out until about June, July, every day that I can. It'll be really the only game I touch for a long time. I won't really differ to anything else. This is the game that I'm basically playing 100% of the time, and I typically get burnt out around July. The content this year and we could go in like everybody else does with how SDS releases content in order, is not great. I mean, we're in February. In the last event that we had, we didn't even have any 99s. It was the 91 Heath Bell and 95 Jonathan Lucroy, which, great cards for the beginning of the year. Great cards for the beginning of the year. The events rollout doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't understand why. And then Shane Victorino, too. Like, we're releasing cards that everybody would have loved early on in the year. I mean, you had a Prince Fielder card when the game dropped, and we didn't get his 99 until late, but the evolution of those Prince Fielder cards were great. But, and I mean, there he is right there. But, I mean, dropping a 91 and a 95 in February doesn't work, or at the end of January doesn't work. Like, you're just proving that the game's dead, that no one's playing it because nobody cares. So, it's sad, but what can you do, you know? So, I don't have every card in the game, but let's talk about for when I got burned out, because it's pretty fascinating with how content was released this year. We had so much content. I mean, Team Affinity, we had a whole extra season of Team Affinity, but the All-Star Game Team Affinity is, I think, what kept me in longer. Because typically around July, I'll get burnt out. I'll start playing other games. In August, I'll start paying really close attention to baseball near September, and I'm back into this game around October. Now, when I get burnt out, I still get on. I still do the daily moments. I still I do the stuff that has to get done. I'll do the conquest really quickly. I'll do that, which I'll probably have a tutorial on that for the Xbox players that are new that want to know how to run through conquest, which I've done a horrible job of doing. But I mean, there's a quick way to get through a lot of these to where you won't have to spend more than maybe 2 hours, 3 hours at most for like the bigger maps. But like the smaller maps, like this one, you could probably get done in an hour. Not too bad. It just depends on what your goal is and what you're going for. So, but near the end of July, we get these TA Team Affinity 3 cards. And, I mean, everyone went crazy for a lot of these cards. There's a lot of hidden cards here. There is a lot of... I mean, there is a lot of, not in-game necessarily, but there's a lot of cards that people use as in-game. The biggest example is when we go into the National League East and we see 99 overall Jacob deGrom. He fully broke the game. I mean, hits per 9 was massive this year. Everybody realized that after the jump. And after, I think, TA3 is when they dialed back the hits per 9. I mean, he has 121, and this card was released in July. This was one of the few 99s that were in this game, and that's when we knew it was going full tilt, and we were getting everything. And I'm not saying that this was bad by any means, but when you release a card like this, you have to know it's going to break the game. I mean, with the Trey Turner was used a lot. Now, I never used JT, but he was one of the upfront catchers. But I'm sorry, Kansas City needed every single salvie they got this year. With how much he was doing as a catcher in this league, getting this card in July kept Royals fans in. And then I think it was in August, we got what a lot of people never asked for. We got the Whit Merrifield player program. So it was in October. It was in October when we got this card, and everyone in Kansas City remembers this card. He got his final hit with the bunt, which I don't know why they put it at 35, but of course they got to take him down. But he has no power, which was the other selling point in the game. You needed like a 100 contact and like 115 power to have a card usable, no matter what the defense was, no matter whatever. Now, I play as defense reigns supreme. Like, you can have a couple guys in your lineup that are not going to be able to hit, but I know a lot of people take the other approach, is they need the hitters. They need the hitters. And that's fine. I mean, you look at when we got Roberto Clemente. I mean, he doesn't have power, but his contact for me was fantastic. The original card that they put out, I batted online. I was batting 330 games, which, I mean, once again, a lot of those was events. But either way, like, he was great, and it was. I want to show you this too, because this was another perfect example of what I'm talking about. At the beginning of the year, they gave out. Where was he? He was at 85. They gave out this card for free. This was a free card when the game got released. And he played online. He batted 400. And once again, beginning of the year, but defense was impeccable. Now, he didn't have any speed, so I hit him in right. He didn't have any speed, but he had the arm, he had the fielding. He made plays in the outfield for me. And, I mean, he batted 400 both online and against the computer. And, I mean, yeah, he didn't have a home run, but he had 24 hits. He had 6 doubles. He drove in 10 runs, which in event games are huge. And he was always on base. He was my leadoff hitter all year. And, I mean, there's a couple other sneaky cards that they released this year. This Brian Reynolds was not even really talked about when it had first come out, and it became one of the best cards with TA5. And I mean, I still would use him on the God Squad, honestly. I mean, outfield is so stacked that you can make arguments like none of these cards hold up, but I fully believe Brian Reynolds holds up. He was one of the best hitting cards that I had in TA5. So I always believe defense reigns supreme. If you can just sacrifice a little bit of hitting for defense, in my mind, it works. Another card that I believe that not a lot of people sleep on because he wasn't a great card, but for me, he was why I love this game. Evan Longoria. This card, since 18, has been sneaky. I've always loved Evan Longoria cards. And when he eventually leaves the show, he will make me so sad. I mean, I only had 10 plate appearances, but he had gotten, out of 9 at-bats, 7 hits. He was batting .800 and offline with 73 plate appearances and 71 official at-bats. I mean, you're batting still .435, .437. Like, this card always played defense with me at third. This card always played defense with me at third. No issues, no nothing. Never had an issue with him. And then, no, he didn't have the speed. He didn't have a lot of the stuff, but he had clutch and he had hitting, and that's all he did for me. This was one of the cards that I would use whenever I could, because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm comfortable with Evan Longoria. I've always loved his cards, and his cards have always raked for me. Like, maybe not the most at stand. I mean, because out of 71 plate appearances, you're hitting 10 home runs. But, I mean, he was getting on base anytime. 22 RBIs. I mean, the man was insane. I never have an issue with Evan Longoria, ever. So, I mean, that was another one of those cards that, when that dropped and when I think Braun dropped, but I didn't do good with Braun. But when those two cards dropped, I was all about it, because there was no way that I was just going to let you get away with giving me these two cards. And I mean, there's only been 10,000 people that have paralleled to him, but I mean, he was batting okay. I mean, good online for the 3 games that I played with him. But either way, I mean, take a look at it. But content this year, I think, was great. I don't have an issue with the content that came out. I don't have an issue with the amount of free content that they put in the game every year. That's something that SDS does right. The amount of moments, the amount of content that they drop throughout the year. You could have picked up the game mid-July and had a full God Squad roster of just top style players. You could have, and that was all for free. Monthly rewards this year for the monthly rewards this year were also insane. I mean, Royals getting this Danny Duffy early, that was great. This Shohei, this 89 overall Shohei Ohtani, I kid you not, was the best Ohtani hitting card I think we got. I don't know what was up with the swing, I don't know, but everything jumped off the bat. But Byron Buxton, this beautiful card that came out at the beginning of the year, was the best card that we had gotten. I fully believe through the monthly rewards programs. I mean, this guy just hit, and he didn't stop. And like I said, with defense reigning supreme, I mean, you have an elite center fielder that is the fastest player, and he's almost maxed out in fielding. This card, within itself, was my center fielder for the longest time. And I mean, I had Trout early and everybody else, and I was still putting him in center because, I mean, that was a card that I needed. That was a card that, everybody loved. And then we look at Marcus Semien in May in this card, and I think it was because of the hype around Buxton. This card I just didn't do well with. I didn't really enjoy using this card, but he was probably the best second baseman for a while. June, we sit here and we get Kyle Schwarber, which became probably the second. I mean, it probably honestly became the top card because this card at catcher just raked all the time. It didn't matter what was going on. And I mean, I hit better online than I did in single player, but I mean, this card, with it having the catcher, made it viable and used him until the 99 Salvies came out. So content this year was great, in my mind. Now, the order of the content, again, we can argue that all day, but at the end of the day, the content was great. Now, let's go over the glaring issues that we saw in 21. Probably one of the biggest thing that we saw, there was nothing. Absolutely nothing for franchise. Nothing. We got the stupid roster, was it depth chart? That's all we got for franchise. That was pitiful. March to October, I can see the appeal. I've liked it here and there, but it's not a game mode that I would pick over franchise by any means. The only reason I'm currently playing it, if we're going to be completely honest, is because of achievements. That is legitimately the only reason why I'm currently playing March to October, is to get these achievements, which you can see on my channel here hopefully in a couple weeks, because I'm currently editing that. But franchise got nothing. You want to talk about beginning of the year? There were so many connection issues. Really throughout the first month, to the point to where Sony gave out that free pack. Remember, they gave out that free, like, hey, thanks for sticking with us. Our services sucked. Here's a ton of like cards and a couple diamonds and stuff like that. Like, it was a huge thank you gift to the community for just sticking out through the servers, which I understand, because my first ranked game got DC'd in the third inning. I was trying to play friendlies opening night, and we couldn't connect for longer than probably 5 innings. Servers went down nightly to where no one could play. And then once we thought that the servers were fixed, freeze-offs reigned supreme. And there was a ton of bugs that people were doing to make them happen. A ton of bugs for people to make them happen. And it was really kind of sad, because that just is what was the overwhelming consensus of what online play was, is if you're playing by any means, you're probably getting a freeze off. Like, no matter what. You hit a home run, freeze off. Strike somebody out, freeze off. Get a run and then steal a base afterwards, he's thrown outside and getting a freeze off. I mean, that's what it was. That's literally all it was. There was no doubt about it. That's just what was happening. So we look at this, and we look at the issues of 21, and of course servers reign supreme of the biggest issues that we had in 21. But outside of that, I mean, outside of the content that we got, I mean, we never really got a bad program. I mean, everyone who dropped was great. You know, through BR. Everybody loved the BR drops. We saw massive cards through ranked seasons with this, like, with the Trout, with Trout, with Gehrig, with Donaldson. Donaldson was a huge one. So was this Verlander. Gossage was huge. Vita Blue. That card was amazing. I remember when the Seager dropped, everyone was trying to get him. Of course, this Prince Fielder was probably the greatest card to come to the community, because he was a new legend and everybody wanted to use him. And as much as I love Prince Fielder, and that's officially the first jersey that I have Couldn't hit with them. Made me sad. But either way, I mean, there was a lot of cards dropped this year that everybody loved. So, and that's not even talking about, here. Like, there was just a ton of cards that dropped. There's a lot of content that, even if it came out of order, was good content. Now, me being me, I grew up on Xbox. I played PlayStation with my buddies here and there, but I've always owned an Xbox. And when we lost 2K, there was nothing left for our markets. We had Super Mega Baseball, which Super Mega Baseball was okay. It was a game that held us over. Where is it? Super Mega Baseball. The game that held us over for a long time. And then we had what is now officially canceled, RBI Baseball. But even then, the last game for 2K, I think, came out in 12 or 13. I think it was 13. I think 2K13 was the last year. 2014 came RBI Baseball. But yet, that game sucked. 2015, it became a little better, but still sucked. 16 is when it caught its stride. But even then, it was RBI Baseball. The show did it in 17 and did it better. Like, that's what we were looking at. So, with Xbox striving for a baseball game, now I had bought a PlayStation back in 2018, and because I wanted to play the show. I wanted an official MLB title that had the beautiful cinematics, the beautifulness of everything, actual rosters, sitting here doing everything that I wanted, and like just all of the options that we had. I mean, and I mean, I just wanted, when I bought the PlayStation in 18, this is what I wanted. I wanted updated rosters. I wanted the beautiful cinematics. I wanted everything that the show had brought. And this is exactly what the game gave me. And this is what I wanted. So, as an Xbox perspective, this is the game that we had been waiting almost a decade for. This was 7-8 years removed from what we needed. And I mean, did it suck? Yes. It sucked tremendously not to have baseball on Xbox like this. And I mean, and it was everything that we wanted. We had the created player, which everybody loved in 2K. We had franchise come out, and I mean, was there a lot of options with franchise? No, the mode is still underwhelming. Like, I remember playing Madden 12, which Madden took it away, but I remember playing like Madden 12, Madden 09 and stuff like that, to where you got to customize stadiums. You upgraded seats, you fluctuated ticket prices, you fluctuated concession stands prices, you upgraded the parking lots, you upgraded everything. And now, I haven't played Madden in a while. This could still be the case for franchise mode Madden. But why don't we have that in the show? Why don't you give us the option to upgrade seats, upgrade the customer experience, drive more revenue to pick up more players? Like, it's simple. You don't have to change anything in the terms of how the field looks. You don't have to do anything about that. I mean, you could have them build the custom stadium. the Create a Stadium, which was another huge mode this year because it hasn't been in a game since '05. Huge mode this year for being able to create a stadium on the newer consoles, which I didn't get until, I think, August, September, but either way. No, I didn't get until November. I didn't get until November this year. I finally upgraded to the new consoles, which is what you're watching now. But either way, once I got it, that was huge for baseball fans. Huge. And with it being free on Game Pass, it gave everybody a perspective, and it gave everybody a chance to enjoy the game that we missed out on for almost a decade. So in Xbox perspective, this was a massive game to come out. And having it be one of the top 4 games of the year for a long time was insane. And it shows that baseball is still thriving. And out of all of the issues in this game with the hitting mechanic being broken, with pitching being so overhauled, it broke the game. With everything with it. This was the game that I think Xbox players needed. And I know PlayStation was like, oh, well, we're losing this, and this is going to be bad, and the servers are horrible. They probably tripled the amount of players this year. They probably tripled the amount of players this year that they've had in the past with PlayStation. And expect the same thing next year with Switch. I mean, is it going to be as big of a market as Xbox? No. It is not by any means, but you're still going to see an influx of players. I mean, I can't tell you how many millions of people were playing this game, but I guarantee you it was up in it had to be up, I would almost say in the 100. Especially at least 10 million opening night. Over time, I mean, the servers are going to take a hit. You have tripled your fan base. And you're probably still operating on the same servers that you had before. Expecting maybe a little uptick, but not expecting the support that Xbox gave you. So, overall, I mean, we had a new practice custom mode where you could warm up with any pitch, with any speed, with any whatever, which was great. And I mean, you had other stuff online that came out. Like Showdown this year was huge. That was a cool mode. The parallel system was the best mode that we've seen. Or the best add-on to the game, I think. Unanimously, they did it correctly. They had an XP. They raised everybody. I mean, they made more of the Evan Longoria cards 99s theoretically, because every attribute raised up by 1. So you had usable cards that weren't all 99s at the end of the year. There was a plethora of cards, especially if you loved them, that no longer got phased out on a month-to-month basis, which is something that we also needed. The biggest glaring point was the lack of anything to franchise, and the amount of server issues that this game had went through almost destroyed the game. So even with those takes, I mean, overall, this is probably the best thing that Xbox could have got. Could it have been way better? Yes, but with us not having a baseball game in such a long time, and then finally itching the urge of people that, still played on the 1, that never was able to get the closure on the MLB, this was the best case scenario for baseball fans. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the points that I wanted to hit. Good first episode. I liked it. I hope you guys do too. I'll have links in the socials that I want you to follow. And welcome to the first video on this channel in a long time. I'm happy to be back. I'm hoping I can get... I know this one came out on Sunday. On Super Bowl Sunday. And I'm sorry. I know it's a bad time to release. I know it came out on Sunday. And I know that baseball season is going to go through a lockout. I mean, we're still under a lockout, but we're going to have cancellation. There's no way we're not. So, I don't know what that holds for us, but I'm hoping to release this every Saturday. I'm hoping to give you new, exciting content. And next week, I want to go over what I want in 22. I have so many ideas of what I want. I have a couple new card variants that, to myself, I've thought about wanting in this game. And I mean, that goes back to us not having a game since 13 on Xbox. Like, a lot of stuff that I think people want to see. I know they're updating the Created Stadium, which, once again, was a huge mode. I'm hoping it stays permanent. I wish we had an online franchise that didn't revolve on you needing millions of people to play. I'm hoping they're able to do it all just kind of together. But either way, thank you for listening to the first episode of Let's Talk MLB The Show. Like I said, next episode we're going to talk about 22 and what I would like to see from 22. So either way, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.